are Ahn, JC, Jesus, and Jonas, and our working title is Crystal Lands. You will be exploring a vast space with floating islands, moving from island to island via platforms and/or flight. You will also have to defeat some enemies, so there will be the evil overlord who's trying to crash these islands. We will also have to beat his minions. There will be power-ups to collect, which will give you abilities that will allow you to beat the enemies and solve the puzzles. These puzzles to solve will be part of the process of restabilizing the crystal technology grid. So overall, this theme is kind of like a Zelda meets Avatar meets Mario Party, but super simplified and in VR. In this VR 3D platformer game, players will be able to move in different ways, i.e. continuous motion, teleportation, flight, depending on the challenge, in order to get from the beginning to the end of each level, moving from floating island to floating island. During the game, different obstacles, i.e. puzzles and enemies, appear in the level path. And the goal of the game is to work together to destroy the obstacles and enemies in order to reach the end of the level and save the floating cities from crashing to the ground and dying. There will be some enemy combat sounds, obstacle destruction sounds, power-up sounds, puzzle completion sounds, movement sounds. There will be effects for enemy/obstacle destruction and some magical effects. There will also be some sort of Dragon Ball Z style hand-based combat mechanic. As the game progresses, players obtain different power-ups that affect their hands, legs, and abilities, making it easier or harder to. Here's a basic project sketch, basically showing how multiple players will move from platform to platform, face obstacles. Thanks for listening, guys, and wish us luck.
Our first step in the development process was to create a simple room of primitive shapes and blocks that you could manipulate. The purpose of this was to explore how network synchronization and normcore worked. Although we ran into some issues that we did not quite understand at the time, like blocks getting stuck in the air at startup, it was a rather straightforward process to get the basics working. Second step, basic enemies. After getting the initial setup working, where we had a room that we could all enter together, we moved on to setting up some basic enemies. We used Unity's built-in nav-mesh baking to build a navigation map of the world, and then added a nav-mesh agent to our capsule-shaped enemies to give them the ability to move. The way we implemented our enemies in this first test version was that we created a script on them that checked if the distance to the player was within a certain range. Then we told the nav-mesh agent to move towards the player. We also added a damage tracking script to the enemies that kept track of their health. If something with a specific tag collided with this game object having this script, like for example weapon, its health would be decreased. If the damage reached 0, the object was destroyed. Next step in our development process was setting up the shape of our first level. We initially had plans of having multiple islands that you could travel between by grabbing and moving platforms. But this platform idea was later put on hold due to the amount of work we needed to get it working well. It took a while to figure out how to make a platform to both be possible to teleport to and to be able to move it around. And even when using the Ray interactable function to take hold of something at a distance, the object would still be moved closer to the player when grabbing it, even if not moved directly to the hand. After setting up the basic world, we added in some enemies again and started to expand on their behavior by implementing 3 different behavior types. First, guard mode. An enemy stands still and waits at the position and engages any player that comes near. Random walking. An enemy selects a random position within a circle of a certain radius from its center and then starts moving towards that position. When this position is reached, it selects a new position to walk towards, and so on. For the third behavior, we created a script for a waypoint system. For this script, you could assign an arbitrary number of game objects that would work as waypoints. When one of these waypoint systems were assigned to an enemy, it would visit these waypoints in order. When a player came within aggro range of an enemy, it would instead start pursuing the player, and when the player gets out of range, it returns to doing whatever it was doing before. To make it easier to design the network, we created an edge script that would draw a line between the waypoints if they were possible to navigate between by the NavMesh agent. This prevents issues like accidentally placing a waypoint in the air or on unreachable places. When killing an enemy, it will often drop a reward in the form of a potion, or in some cases, a key. The way we handled this was by creating a scriptable object for loot tables. Each loot table contained a list of objects that could be dropped and the chance that this object would be dropped. When an enemy dies, the damage tracker would ask the loot table assigned what object to spawn, instances this object, and then apply an upward force to it to have it fly up in the air. Once we got the combat and enemy movement working, we implemented a simple puzzle game. With the help of this puzzle, the player got a reason to explore the world and kill enemies. To force the player to activate the crystals in a certain order, we had one crystal that was powered by default, and then we required each powered crystal to be aimed at the next one in order for that one to become active and usable.